Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of yappy things with microphones. It was either yappy or I don't know what, like yummy. It was not great picks for the letter Y. I do all kinds of yappy things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer. And I'm joined this week by only one of my co-hosts who brings MMA punditry to new heights himself. Introducing from New York, Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
What's happening, man? How you doing? We are
right.
Obviously a two-man crew this week. I am underprepared as I've been of late with this new job. Anytime that the viewers feel like starting to pay us for this content, please leave us a comment and let us know so I can leave my job and just focus on this full time. But until then, I may have some nights where I'm underprepared. And, of course, it is the night where there's only two of us, so we're going to rely on Mike to carry us through this one tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more of a casual show, more conversational show. Because, as Mark alluded to, we are missing Omar tonight, who is kind of dealing with a little bit of a personal issue. So we wish him the best. We're thinking about him, and he couldn't make it tonight, and he will be with us next week. So let us forge ahead, Mark. Two-man show.
Let us. Feels weird.
It does. I
did
feel
one
off.
of these with Omar, but I've never done one with you. Now you and Omar are going to have to do one day.
Exactly.
If you can ever get rid of me.
Yeah. So we're going to start this week, as we always do, with our first segment on the marquee. We're going to recap some fights from last weekend's UFC Fight Night, Ortega versus Rodriguez. We're going to throw some fights into our lightning round, two-man version. We're going to find out who rose and who fell in our very own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings. There will be no MMA Sphere this week because no Omar. That's sort of like his thing, his baby. So that means that we're going to jump right into the previews. And there's quite a bit to preview for this coming week in terms of MMA. We have events this weekend. On Friday, there is a one championship event. On Friday also, there is Bellator 283, Lima versus Jackson. And on Saturday, there is a huge UFC Fight Night 208, otherwise known as UFC Fight Night, UFC London. Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. Ooh, what a fight night card. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, thank you so much. Go ahead, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. Hit that like button. That's cool too. Our favorite thing, actually, number one for me, Mark, you tell me, is comments. I love comments, man.
Oh,
Nothing gives me a zing up my spine than a thoughtful comment from a viewer. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our takes. Give us your predictions and your recap reactions as well. We love to hear. We respond to every single comment. If you want audio only, hey, we got you. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, find us on social media, on all the socials, at @andnew_MMA show. All right. Mr. Priaulx, this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Matt Dangerous Schnell. As I butcher his last name because I
doesn't belong there so much that you couldn't even say it.
I couldn't even say his last name, Schnell. Who, this past weekend at UFC Fight Night Ortega versus Rodriguez, defeated Su Mudaerji by technical submission via triangle choke. Official time, 4:24 of round number 2, marking what could have been one of the best comeback wins we've seen in recent memory. My man was truly on Queer Street. Su Mudaerji almost got him out of there, but Matt Schnell somehow stayed in there and finished him off with the triangle choke. Mark, take us through what was your reaction throughout this fight.
First off, it's got to be one of the most stunning marquees we've ever had. The odds of a Matt Schnell marquee were like 1,000,000 to 1, like literally 1,000,000 to 1.
If there were odds on who's going to be on the marquee.
Yeah, just ever. In the history of the show, a match Schnell marquee. No, never. And I'm sure if the main event had actually concluded, maybe one of them would have been here, but it didn't. And who the hell deserves it more than this guy? Because holy shit. First of all, since when does Matt Schnell have a chin of a god? Like, I don't recall him having that chin. Like, that was friggin' nuts. The dude would get turned off for half of Mississippi, and then he would just be like, all right, I'm bouncing. I'm back. I'm ready to go. Like, he was off a second ago. And it happened like 5 times. Like, the elbow that Su framed up, I thought that Matt Schnell was dead. Like, I was literally waiting for his face to smash into the canvas. And not only does it not do that, but he doesn't even go down. One hand hit the mat off of that elbow, and he comes back up. I don't know
Did he ever even go down to a knee?
I think there was one where he went down to a knee. That one was the biggest one of all to me, and it was just his hand. I do feel like there was one with a knee, but maybe not, dude. Maybe not. It was insane. And then the next big shot, I made a note. It's at 248 if you want to look at it. He gets cracked again, and the ref stares at him and literally shakes his head because he can't understand how Matt Schnell is not falling over. Like, he literally looks at him, and he's like, what? So I don't know how he was staying alive and pushing through all of that. And then he lands that right straight of his at the 2-minute mark that snaps Su's head back. And you get that feeling of like, wait a minute, he's not going to win this fight, right? Like, this can't happen.
Right.
And then next thing you know, the dude is in mount, raining down shots on Mudaerji. And I actually thought it was going to get stopped there, but it didn't. I love that the ref gave Mudaerji the same chances he was giving Schnell because he could have stopped it there.
Well
But to Su's credit, he flips it over, ends up on top, and then the magic happens. You have Matt Schnell putting Su Mudaerji out cold with a triangle choke. Literally the only fitting way for that fight to end, I feel like, was someone going out cold. Schnell sits up. He gives you the money sign, smiling, covered in blood, with an unconscious Su Mudaerji still laying on his leg. Like, absolutely iconic image. If that was like a title fight, that image would live literally forever.
Right.
And that fight is why we watch MMA.
Referee Jacob Montalvo, I was waiting for him to stop this fight. I really thought that even if Matt Schnell, if Matt Schnell ever faltered more than going down to a knee or something like that, if any of those shots, if any of those elbows sent him down to his butt, that fight was getting waved off. Because he took
even if a
so much
wobble
damage.
lasted for like 2 seconds, he was going to stop it. But every wobble was like, oh, he's wobbled. Oh, he's jumping up and down. Like, it was so fast.
I mean, maybe just as much as judging sometimes, there's a certain degree of subjectivity in refereeing. I feel like there are other refs that would have stopped that fight at some point during that barrage.
Yep.
Su Mudaerji, Matt Schnell was so rocked that Su Mudaerji literally was just grabbing his wrists and just raining elbows over the top.
Yep.
And I was like, Jesus, Matt Schnell, he's so out of it, he's not even really defending. And then he fired back, and Su Mudaerji, I think, was also maybe a little tired from hitting Matt Schnell so much.
I think so too. And I think he was a little bit like getting that feeling of like, what's happening? Can I not beat this guy? Like, why are we still here?
Or maybe just some frustration. Maybe frustration with the ref. I mean, maybe some frustration of just like, what the hell do I have to do? How many times do I have to hit this guy? But man, what a sequence, man. What a sequence.
God. I think there's absolutely a factor in fights like that where you're hitting someone with the best shots you have and you're not turning them off. And it gives you this feeling a little bit of like, is this like not going to be my day? Like, why are the things that are supposed to work not ending this fight? And I think that can play with you. Especially
a guy like Su Mudaerji, who is a striker. I mean, he only 16 victories on his record, only 1 victory by submission. Out of his 16 victories, 13 of them by knockout or TKO. This man is a striker.
Yep.
And Matt Schnell ate it all up. He said, nom, 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 nom.
Ate it all up. I got to
did.
I got to try to find that image so I can save it and not forget it. Because if you haven't looked at this image, Frozen, of Matt Schnell sitting there, covered in blood. Mudaerji's covered in blood. He
Pass
is
out.
smiling through the blood, making the money sign, and Mudaerji is laying unconscious on his legs. It's like it's all of MMA in a nutshell in one picture.
Not also a picture that clearly illustrates not a sport for the faint of heart.
No, yeah, no. On ABC.
Right. Oh, I'm sure there were some ABC and Disney executives like watching that, being like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, what have we done?"
Yep. I think so too.
Okay, let's go with the winner here, Matt Schnell. He breaks his losing streak. He dropped fights to Bontarine and Royval. Gets back in the win column with this huge win over Su Mudaerji. That also, when you win in style like this, man, it's like more than just the win. It's like extra points, I guess.
Yes.
So give me an opponent. Where would you want to go next with Matt Schnell? Put on that matchmaker hat, Mark.
So, kind of like you said, I would love to go more after how well he just fought than what I'm going to do. But it's like a little crowded at the top of flyweight. Some fights are booked. Obviously, we already have the interim. Figueiredo's out. It's a little crowded. He asked for I always forget how he says his last name. I believe he says Matthias Nicolas. I could be wrong. But he asked for Matthias Nicolas in MSG in October, who is obviously ranked right above him. And it's not a huge jump, but I think it's a great fight. I think Nicolas kind of deserved a step up also, but I think this works kind of as a consolation for both guys. I think that's a fight that works.
Nice. Anybody you want to throw out there for Mudaerji? He's not far behind Matt Schnell, and he did not look terrible in this fight.
No, yeah, he looked good. I was thinking coming off the loss that he could get in there with Ode Osborne, who has looked very good at flyweight of late. He's kind of on the way up. I feel like they're sort of similar. They both keep that range. They both have the big power. I would be really interested to see who could come out on top in that one.
Nice, man. Nice. All right, well, let's move on. Let's move on to the main event of UFC Fight Night.
Sadness.
Ortega versus Rodriguez. I mean, I feel like on this very show 7 days ago, we were all like, this fight is a guaranteed scrap. It's a guarantee. Listen, right now, I'm going to say right here, you will never hear me say the word guarantee ever again on this show. Because in MMA, there really is no such thing as a guarantee. These two guys could have turned in a classic for us. But in MMA, this can happen. There can be a draw. There can be an injury, as we had last Saturday night. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, main event of this fight night in the featherweight division, huge fight. Brian Ortega took on Yair Rodriguez. The fight ended in the first round with Ortega getting injured. He dislocated his shoulder when he was on top of Yair on the ground, and he just kind of fell back on his back. Ortega sat up and didn't follow up with any punches. He definitely seemed to exact some sportsmanship there, and the fight was immediately called off because Ortega was like, "My shoulder's busted," or whatever he had said to the ref, and that was it. So take us through, Mark. What was your reaction to that moment and to the fight up to that point?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked. It's tough to take, like you said. These things happen in MMA, but it doesn't make them suck any less. I was so hyped for that fight. It just had so much potential to produce fireworks. I'm a big Ortega fan. I was pumped to see what he could do. I thought he could win that fight. Nothing that I watched in that first round made me feel any different than I felt. My take remains exactly the same as it was going in. Also hurt because I had about 4 different parlays where Ortega was my last leg, and I had hit on everything else prior to that, and all I needed was my boy Ortega to get a win to win me however many $100, and that went out the window. So hurt in a lot of ways. But yeah, it was a buzzkill. We got the tease of the fight just getting going. I thought both guys actually looked really good. Like Ortega was doing exactly what he wanted to do. He was walking Yair down. He was putting the pressure on him. He landed some of his own, and he had just gotten the takedown and was working on top. Yair on the flip side, yes, he had just gotten taken down, but it was late in the round. I'm sure he thinks he would have made it through that round, and he was striking beautifully off his back foot, and he was probably the fighter that was landing more Ortega kind of fights that way. Like, that's why I'm saying nothing changed about my take, because you kind of know Ortega's going to walk you down and almost intentionally eat shots because he wants to tire you out and break you and gradually close that distance more and more, and that's kind of his game. But Yair was doing exactly what I'm sure he wanted to do, which was to make Ortega pay for that walking in. He was lighting him up pretty solid. So I thought they both fought well. I'd imagine they were both happy with what they had done prior to Yair giving up the takedown. I'm sure he didn't want to do that. But we got robbed of it. You know, a tough luck loss for Ortega, obviously, who might have to have some time off here. I know he's had a surgery on each shoulder already, which he mentioned. So let's hope he doesn't need another one. I almost kind of feel like he does, just from how things looked. But who knows? We'll cross our fingers. And Yair gets a W, but it's not a W that necessarily catapults him to a title shot the way that he was hoping one would. So, you know, it keeps him right there in the picture. It's not like it's a loss that sets him back. You know, he's still right there, but I don't think anyone's saying he needs to fight Volk right now. So, you know, just a little bit of a weird one. And I just want to say, as for the finish, I've heard some takes from people that Yair should be getting a sub-victory because he had grabbed, you know, obviously, you know what I mean, he gets the victory, but I'm saying people are saying it shouldn't be like injury loss. It should be Yair wins by sub. And the take is that people are saying it's because he grabbed Ortega's arm, which is what made Ortega pull it away, therefore causing the injury. So Yair should be getting full credit as if he had hurt his arm in a sub. I don't fall into that camp. I think that was more of a freak thing than anything. Like, if two guys were clinching and they wanted to separate and one guy pulled on the other's arm and the shoulder separated, you wouldn't call that a sub. Like, you would call it a freak thing. And that's, to me, the same thing that happened here. Like, a shoulder's not supposed to pop out in that scenario. It was Yair had grabbed Brian's arm, Brian ripped his arm right out, and the shoulder happened to come out. So, to me, that's a freak thing. That's not something I'm trying to give Yair credit for. Yair didn't seem like he thought he deserved the credit for it either. So, I just wanted to speak on that because I've kind of seen that around Twitter. I actually wanted to hear Omar's take on that. Unfortunately, we will not. But to me, that was just a freak thing. But obviously, Yair walks out of there with the win either way.
So Yair afterwards, Ortega afterwards, lamenting to, I think, Megan O'Leary, or whoever was interviewing him in the back, was saying, I was winning every second of that fight up to that. But you're saying you saw it kind of even up until that point?
I think, so I know exactly what he's saying because it's kind of what I was saying. Like, Ortega was fighting it how he needed to fight it. I think he was implementing his game plan 100%. I don't know that I would have scored round one for him. Prior to the takedown, I think round one would have been scored for Yair. Obviously, then the takedown happens. Maybe Ortega steals it back. But I think Ortega was fighting exactly how he needed to be fighting, and I am still confident that as that fight went on, it would have swung toward Ortega like I originally thought that it would.
You think so?
Who knows?
I mean, watching
that because that was my take going in, and I didn't see anything that changed that from being my take.
Totally. I mean, it was a clash that was going to be fireworks because I thought Ortega. I was watching it and I was thinking, man, Ortega is playing with fire, man. You're trying to walk down Yair Rodriguez. This guy has a ton of fireworks in his hands, in his feet, all his strikes. Ooh. Yeah. Boy, were we ever robbed, man. Were we ever robbed of what could have been fight of the year, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because it's one of those fights, I think I said this last week, where it almost feels like it should have already happened. Then we finally get it, and we don't get it, and now it's like, man, I hope we get to see this one day, and that these two guys don't just go their courses of their career and never even end up in there again. So let's hope we do because it's even in that one round we watched, it seemed like it was a fun matchup. So hopefully we get to see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the aftermath, Ortega has talked about wanting to run it back right away with Yair, but it seems like Yair is taking this W and running with it. And he already has called out the champ on Twitter, Alexander Volkanovski, saying, let's do it. Let's square up. I'll come to Australia. We can meet in the middle. We can do it in Vegas, wherever you want. What do you think of that, Mark? Do you think that this technical victory over Brian Ortega is enough for Yair to step up into that title shot finally?
So, obviously, if you have not heard, I'm sure almost everyone has, we have had Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev booked at lightweight for the title, which means Volk is not getting a lightweight title fight right now. But he's also getting hand surgery. So it's not like he's sitting there waiting for a title fight. So if I had to guess, I actually think the UFC had a little bit of a Josh Emmett problem where he felt like he deserved a title shot, but he hadn't quite done what most people thought was enough to earn it. And with Ortega hurt and needing at least some time, I think they kind of just fell into a solution, and it was mentioned to Dana at the post-fight press conference, and he seemed to like it, which is to do Yair versus Josh Emmett, either for an interim title or just a number one contender, and solve it that way. And then whoever wins that fight is there for Volk, and Ortega, gets better in the meantime. So if I had to guess, I think we're going to get Yair and Josh Emmett.
Great matchup. Can you give me an early pick, real quick pick?
I think I'd pick Yair, but see, there's certain guys who I don't pick because they're just not guys I can fully believe in, and Josh Emmett is one of them. And obviously, I am wrong at times. I mean, I picked him against Ige, but I feel like when he fights these top of the line guys, I tend to not pick him. So I'm gonna say Yair, but Emmett's surprising.
He can be. I'm
Who
with
would you take?
I would take. Oh yeah, big time Yair.
Yeah.
I think that's a great matchup for Yair because Josh Emmett is a guy who's going to want to stand and strike.
Yeah, Emmett could go to the wrestling there though, because Emmett can wrestle. People forget how well Emmett can wrestle. If he wants to, he can.
Let's talk about Ortega. Where do you think he goes from here?
I mean, it's so hard because we don't know how long this guy's going to be out. He could be out for a year if he's getting surgery. He could also be out for 2 months if it's fine and he's right back in, So it's tough to say.
Yeah, you're right.
And honestly, there's a lot of ways you could go. You could, if that doesn't materialize, obviously you could run this back. I could see him in there with a Calvin Kattar. I think that's an action fight. You could put him against one of these young undefeated guys like an Arnold Allen or Bryce Mitchell. There's a lot of ways you can go with him, and I just feel like you can't answer it without knowing how long he's going to be out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the shortest time frame would probably be 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the severity of how, did it fully dislocate? Was it out? Do you know that? Do we know that?
I think it was, but I'm not. I guess I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because there's different degrees of dislocation. It sucks, man. I am someone who has dealt with many shoulder dislocations and subluxations, which is when it comes out and goes right back in immediately. Pretty painful, man. It's pretty devastating. So I think Ortega's going to be out closer to a year.
Yeah, that's my guess as well. Unfortunately.
And you're right. It's hard to know. It's hard to predict what the landscape of featherweight is going to be a year from now. You could say, Calvin Kattar would be a great matchup. But let's say Calvin Kattar loses 3 in a row over the course of the year.
Right.
So, tough to say.
I agree.
Sucks big time. But let's move on to the co-main event. Man, Matt Schnell kicked out the main and co-main. Kicked him out of the marquee. Way to go, Matt Schnell. Okay, in the co-main event, women's strawweight division, Amanda Lemos defeated the karate hottie Michelle Waterson Gomez by submission via guillotine choke. The official time, 1 minute, 48 seconds of round number 2. I think we were unanimous in this pick last week. Am I wrong?
We were.
And it pretty much went as we thought. So give me your assessment of Amanda Lemos' performance over the veteran, the karate hottie Michelle Waterson.
Yeah, this was another one where both girls, I thought, were honestly doing what they wanted to do. Michelle was doing well. She was staying at distance. She was using her kicks. She was mostly staying safe. She was working in the wrestling. She'd gotten that takedown. And Lemos, on the other hand, she was finding ways to close the distance when she could. She was stepping in. She landed some of the power shots. She was kind of slowly working it closer as the fight was going. But I think it was a pretty even fight up until the point that it ended. And then Amanda Lemos just snatches up that guillotine. I mean, that was a hell of a job. Super opportunistic guillotine and just wrapped the legs around so fast, beautifully applied. A bit of a weird one where the ref didn't see the tap, but Amanda felt it and let go, so there was a little confusion there for a second. But obviously it was a tap. Good on Amanda. And yeah, it's a big win for her to plant her flag really as someone who is going to continue to be a factor despite the loss in her last fight. That one legitimizes her, I would say.
Yeah, I felt like Waterson was trying to execute her game plan as best she could.
Yeah.
But it also felt like she was in a Shark Tank, and she was not the shark.
I agree.
And Lemos was kind of just hunting her the whole time.
Which is how we thought that would feel.
Exactly. Yeah. She landed, obviously, the more devastating power shots. And, yeah, I think she was rocked, and she hopped on that guillotine, and it was a wrap. I mean, Waterson tapped, and the ref didn't see it, but it didn't matter because Waterson was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. She
That's
good on her, too, because when she looked up and realized that the ref hadn't said a word, she was like, no, I tapped.
She was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Good on her. Good sportsmanship on both ladies' parts. And Lemos keeps rolling. So where's she going from here, Mark? You let us know.
I'm going to go with Tecia Torres for Lemos. There's definitely some options, but for some reason I'm most intrigued by that matchup. I think the physicality, the speed. Obviously, Torres does not have the power that Lemos has in the strikes, but I'm intrigued to see if Lemos could pass that test.
Waterson has now dropped 2 in a row against Lemos, and before that, Marina Rodriguez. Nothing to scoff at in those 2 losses. But Michelle Waterson, she's got a lot of miles on that karate hottie body. Ooh, you like what I did there? Do you think is she going to keep fighting, or do you think she walks away?
I think she keeps going. I think we would have likely heard about it if she didn't plan to. I don't think she'd walk away without it being known that it was her last. I thought about her fighting the winner of Angela Hill and Lupe Godinez.
Love that.
Either Hill getting her rematch or Lupe being tested further if she ends up beating Hill. Mm-hmm. But then I saw that fight's not till October. I didn't realize that was that far away, so that would be a pretty long wait for Michelle. And maybe that's fine, but if it's not, I think another option that would actually be cool is a woman who we're going to get to in a little bit, which is Emily Ducote, who debuted on this card with a nice win over Jessica Penne. And I wouldn't mind throwing her in there with Michelle Waterson and seeing just how good she is.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I was going to say Hill, because Hill's coming off of some losses. They're both veterans. They fought before, and it would be a nice rematch to run back at this point
in their careers. I think we all thought Hill won that fight the first time, if I do recall.
Yeah, she's been on the losing side of quite a few splits.
Yes, she has.
If I recall.
Yes, she has.
Okay, let's move on. In the welterweight division, a great fight between Li Jingliang upsetting Muslim Salikhov by TKO via a devastating right hand, follow up with some ground and pound. The official time coming at 4:38 of round number 2. What can you say about this scrap between China's Jingliang and Muslim Salikhov?
Your boy nailed this one.
Sure did.
Did you two actually?
I believe I took.
Yeah, I think you did too. Yeah, I think we both said round 2 TKO. But yeah, round 1 was competitive here. Muslim took it just with his movement, some spinning kicks, the takedown that he mixed in. But the whole time I'm watching it, I kept thinking, I'm going to be right about this because the explosiveness advantage that Lee had was evident. And in no way was he getting outclassed enough that I thought it was getting away from him. And I just kept thinking, it's going to happen here. And it did. He slips a jab from Salikhov and explodes into a huge right hand, just moving forward, all his weight behind it, wobbles Salikhov before he can even react, and then smells blood and calmly goes for the kill. I always say this. I love to see fighters who do not let their opponents off the hook when they're hurt, but also don't get frantic and get sloppy. And Lee did a great job of it. He found the sweet spot there, puts Muslim down with another big right, finishes things off for a big bounce-back W after what was a rough loss for him in his last one. This was exactly the type of fight that he needed after getting basically shut out. Not basically. He did get shut out by Khamzat Chimaev. and he went out and did it. He puts his name right back in the mix. Big finish. Like I said, it was that athleticism, the power, the explosiveness that he had over Muslim, who's a bit slower, as good as he is. And it made the difference. And it was pretty cool for a Chinese fighter to knock out a man who, I didn't know this at the time, but who is apparently a legend in China.
Really?
The king of Kung Fu, Muslim Salikhov. So very, very cool.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I said last week that this was going to be a y'all must have forgot performance for Li Jingliang. Because he got, frankly, pretty embarrassed by Khamzat Chimaev in their fight.
Yes, he did.
I believe the word would be sunned. He got sunned. I mean, Chimaev picked him up and walked over to Dana White and was like, I don't know what he said to him. And then he slammed him down and he finished him.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this guy wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. And I had a feeling that Jingliang was going to show everybody just how good he is in this comeback fight, and he did that.
Yes.
What a devastating right hand, man.
Oof.
You know, I got to say, I love Jingliang's energy, man.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
He's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's an
Even after
exciting
the
guy.
fight, he's slamming all his cornermen. Like, he was great. It's a shame he doesn't speak English, because I feel like he'd be super fun.
Right.
I bet you he is super fun to the people who know what he's saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In terms of welterweight, let's talk about the welterweight picture, where Jingliang fits into it at this point. You got a name?
So it's hard to really move him up because a lot of the guys are a little too high level. Some are booked already. So I've got two ideas that I like, though they're not necessarily up. They're kind of right there. One is Daniel Rodriguez, who has gone a while without a fight. I'm actually not sure why it's been so long for Daniel Rodriguez. I was trying to look it up, didn't really find anything. But he's a guy who's right on the edge of these rankings, so I wouldn't mind seeing those two go at it. And the other idea I had, if that's not going to work, is Jake Matthews, who has this win over Li Jingliang from 4 years ago that's bolstering his resume right now. And I know we've paired Jake up with some other guys at different times on this show that we think could work, but I wouldn't hate putting them back in there. It's been long enough. They're both much different fighters now, much better fighters now. And let's see if Jake is truly the better man, or if Lee could even it up.
What a great matchup with Jake Matthews between Jingliang and Matthews, because Matthews coming off that tremendous performance, knocking out Andre Fialho. I think that night you texted our chat and was like, Jake Matthews has become Conor McGregor or something like that.
I did.
Fighting like young Conor in that fight against Fialho.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm all for that matchup, man. All for it.
Yeah, it'd be a fun
Let's see. You want to name a guy for Salikhov, or you just want to move on?
I hadn't thought of one, but I can, if you would like.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Let's keep going.
Let's move on. Because this fight, talk about barn burners. What a treat. This one, again, it was one that we were like guaranteed violence. And this one was in the featherweight division. Shane Burgos defeated Charles Jourdain by a majority decision, which means that one judge had to fight a draw, and the other two judges both scored a 29-28 in favor of Burgos. So take us through, Mark. This fight was a back-and-forth fight. If you haven't watched this one, folks, go back, go on ESPN Plus, and watch this fight, because this is a freaking fun fight between these two featherweights.
Yeah, my main take is, how good of a striker must Charles Jourdain be, that Shane Burgos, who has struck with Calvin Kattar and Cub Swanson and Edson Barbosa and Josh Emmett, was like, nah, I'm not striking with this guy. Like, I'm going to the old grappling. Like, I mean, he was, like, pushing hard for the grappling. And he's normally so comfortable in those striking exchanges, and he was like, nope, I'm not about this. And then when he did finally do it in round 3, he got smoked by Jourdain in round 3. I mean, and he said his legs were gone from the body triangle, so maybe that played a factor. But still, like, Jourdain put it on him in that round. He can strike, boy.
Sure can, man.
But in terms of the fight, as much as I love Shane Burgos, let's just get this out of the way. The boy did not win that fight. At least not in my opinion.
Okay.
He gets smoked in round 3, of course. He wins round 2, obviously, with the backpack almost the whole round. But I don't think he won round 1.
You gave round 1 to Jourdain?
Yeah, I think Jourdain's winning round one early. Burgos does get the back take, and he has that neck crank for however many seconds it is there. But then Jourdain gets out, and he puts it on him again for 2 more minutes. So I don't – how strongly can you score one neck crank? I don't – to me, that's a Jourdain round pretty clearly. So I thought he won that. I bet Burgos, and I'm sitting there thinking I had no chance when they're reading that decision. I couldn't believe it that he won that fight. So, yeah, I would have given it to Jourdain. I thought he looked really good. I do give credit to Burgos. It was nice to see him showing off that aspect of his game. Obviously, he's tough as hell. It was a little weird to see him not have more success striking. Like, it really – I'm almost more interested to see Jourdain again, despite the loss, to be like, how good is this man's striking?
Sure.
So, yeah, close fight, good fight. Who'd you think took it? I'm curious. Who'd you give round one to?
I think I gave it to Burgos. It was close, though. It was back and forth.
Yeah.
And then round 2 was obvious, and then round 3 was even more obvious.
I'm actually super curious. I have not looked on MMA Decision to see how the public scored it. And I'm about to. So let's see. For the experts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 had it for Burgos. 1 had a draw. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 had it for Jourdain. So that's pretty close. And then let's see. In terms of the public, round 3 was Jourdain. Round 2 was Burgos. Obviously, 65% gave Jourdain round 1.
Okay.
So,
well, I hope that they treat Charles Jourdain like he won this fight. I hope they treat both these guys like they won this fight, because they both turned in tremendous performances. And in one of the pre-fight lead-up videos that's narrated by Ron Perlman, the copy had it saying Charles Jourdain is the Canadian stick of dynamite. And watching that fight, he really, I thought, lived up to that little nickname that they gave him in that promo. Yeah. He sure is, man.
He's visibly improving. Like, he was not this good at the beginning of his career. Definitely not. He's getting good.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to see what's next for him. And let's talk about that. Let's start with the official loser of this bout, Charles Jourdain. At featherweight, where would you want to see him go from here? I want to see him go up the rankings. I don't. He could fight either a recent loser or a recent winner in my book. Where would you go? Would you go someone like maybe Joe Anderson Brito?
I don't hate that. That actually is a good idea. I didn't even think about that one. I would be very fine with that. I was going a little higher up. There was one fight that just jumped out at me, and I was picturing it happening, and I was like, oh, man, this is sexy, which is Cub Swanson.
Okay.
He looked so good in his last fight against Darren Elkins. I know he's older, but the man, it looks every bit as dangerous as ever. And to see those two try to take each other out, sign me up.
Okay, what about Burgos?
He
did win this fight, and now he's really peeking into the rankings now.
Yeah, I had 2 things in mind. I was thinking maybe Hakeem Dawodu, who is, I think he's still not ranked, but he's like right outside. I wouldn't mind him getting his shot at the rankings against Burgos. I think that'd be a fun one. But the main one that was kind of sticking in my head was him and Dan Ige. They haven't crossed paths yet, and that kind of just feels like an obvious banger.
Absolutely. Dan Ige, unfortunately, though, coming off of back-to-back losses against Korean Zombie Josh Emmett and Movsar Evloev.
Wow, I forgot it's 3. Yikes.
And this is Burgos' second win in a row.
Is he?
Is
Ige still ranked over in the UFC rankings? Is he still ranked over Burgos?
Oh, I'm not looking at the UFC.
I'm about to look at him right now. I should just leave them open because I keep pulling them up. Yeah, he is. Ige is 11 and Burgos is 14.
Okay.
Yeah, wouldn't hate it.
Would not hate that. All right, let's move on. In the women's flyweight division, Lauren Murphy defeated Miesha Tate by unanimous decision. The judges' scorecards read 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28 for Miss Murphy. give us your assessment, Mark, of both Lauren Murphy and also of our girl Miesha, and how disappointed we all are in her.
This woman, Miesha Tate, hoodwinked and bamboozled us, because the woman that returned against Marion Renault was maybe the best Miesha Tate we had ever seen. Like, we all could not believe how good she looked. And now she's had 2 fights since, and she looks like a shell of that person, and maybe the worst Miesha Tate. I wish Omar was here, because I need his takes on this. We may have to just ask him next week anyway, because I know Miesha Tate's his girl. But goddamn, I mean, I'm going to say it again. The Miesha Tate that fought Marion Renault was so good. She was better at everything than this Miesha Tate. I don't know how that fight occurred, and then we got the Miesha who has fought Ketlin Vieira and Lauren Murphy. Like, if she had come back without the Renault fight, I think we would all just be like, yeah, she's washed. But we saw that fight, so it's like, well, we know she can do it. So I don't know. I don't know what to think. That fight went exactly how I thought it would go, except with the opposite person doing it. Everything I thought Miesha Tate would do to Lauren Murphy is what Lauren Murphy did to Miesha Tate. I've never been a Lauren Murphy fan, but I got to say she earned my respect in this one. She went out. She put it on Miesha Tate. Never took her foot off the gas. She's so tough. She's strong, apparently stronger than Miesha Tate. She brought it to her in every way and gets probably, I would imagine, the biggest win of her career against a name like Tate. And, you know, no matter where Tate is, it means something to beat her. So props to Lauren Murphy. And then just
Totally.
On Tate, of course she wouldn't quit. She never will quit, as we know. But I think we can officially rule out any Miesha Tate title runs at this point in her career, because I don't think she has it.
I feel like I've heard her in an interview saying something to the effect of she would only come back to win a title. So what you just said makes me feel like maybe she might hang it up. Maybe she should hang it up and just walk away,
I was
cut her losses.
The same thing.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we're going to get one more. And and if it's a win, she'll keep going. And if it's a loss, then she will walk. That's kind of my feeling.
Then she'll leave the gloves on the canvas. You think it'll be at women's flyweight or women's bantamweight?
I don't know. That's another. I still feel like the road to a title shot is smoother at 125. But I don't know how she felt at 125. I don't know what the cut was like, so I'm not in her brain enough to say. I was going to say that if she stays at 125, I feel like a fight that makes a lot of sense that she could win, that would keep her toward the top, is a fight with Jennifer Maia.
Oh, sure.
If she goes back up to bantamweight, I don't know. It's harder. It's harder. I kind of would like to see her stay at flyweight one more time and see if she can get a W.
Tell me, if you have the UFC rankings there, do they rank her at flyweight? Is she in the top 15?
I assume they must have now after fighting there. Let's see. They didn't? They didn't. That doesn't make any sense. How do you not rank her? They left her ranked at bantamweight. She's still ranked at bantamweight.
That's weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I love your pick for 125, though. Jennifer Maia also coming off back-to-back losses. She lost to Chookagian and to Menon Fior. So they're both coming off back-to-back losses. Jennifer Maia is a title challenger at 125, so she also brings that credential into the cage as well. So at this point in their careers, I don't think there's a better matchup, Mark. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that one works well.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. As for Lauren, she's got to get a big one. There's 2 fights coming up at flyweight. One is Manon Fior against Caitlin Chookagian. The other is Alexa Grasso against Viviane Araújo. Obviously, there are going to be 2 winners of those 2 fights. One of them, depending how things go, I'm sure is going to be fighting Shevchenko. And I think whichever winner is not fighting Shevchenko should probably be going in there with Lauren Murphy, because she deserves to be right there again, even though she recently lost for the title.
Yeah. Now, Fior's fighting Andrade.
No, Andrade is out. Replaced.
Oh,
by,
she is out.
Yeah. Sorry, maybe that was me and Omar that were talking about that. Yeah, so originally, this fight was Manon Fiorot against Caitlin Chookagian. Chookagian had to pull out, was replaced by Jessica Andrade. Now Andrade had to pull out, and Chookagian was like, hey, I'm actually ready, and she's back in. So we're back to the original fight of Manon Fiorot and Caitlin Chookagian.
God.
Yeah.
This only makes me want Fiorot to beat Chookagian that much more. That Chookagian has put us through this whole
Yes.
this whole journey.
Yes.
I
am glad, though, because I kind of want to see Andrade stay at strawweight. Like, she said she took this just because of the opportunity, but I'm more intrigued. Like, I want to see her fight, like, Marina Rodriguez, like, something like that.
Sure.
I'd be more into that.
Sure. Definitely. Okay, one more before we go into our little lightning round. In the prelims, Ricky Simone, club and sub, the formerly undefeated Welshman Jack Shore in the second round. Official time, 3:28 of round 2. Gives your take.
That fight was not exactly the fight of the night that we expected it to be. Instead, we just got a statement from Ricky Simone. The guy went out there. First of all, he made us look smart. We killed it on this card. Props to us, guys. Props to us. It was really the strength, the explosion, the power that made the difference, just like we thought it would. Even in that one exchange prior to the finishing sequence, there was an exchange where Shore gets in on the hips really well. Looks like there's no reason he shouldn't have the takedown. Simone stuffs it. He turns it around, works. They're kind of on the cage for a little bit. Scoops Shore up, carries him across the cage, slams him down. Like, who is doing things like that to Jack Shore? Simone is just a beast, and it felt like that was going to be a factor, and it absolutely was. And then the power in his strikes also. The power that he has shows itself in that short right hand, lands clean, puts Shore on wobbly legs. And another great aspect of Simone's game that we didn't even talk about last week, we're talking about the strength and the wrestling and the newfound power in his strikes and so on, is that if you give that guy an inch for a sub, he's taking it. And especially the arm triangle. He has a nasty arm triangle and obviously gets it. Pretty quick tap out of Jack Shore and an enormous statement for Ricky Simone.
I don't even think he was on the side for the arm triangle.
Nope, he was on top. He was on top.
He was on top, right.
He was kind of saying that's like his thing. I think he's done that once before as well. He was kind of saying it's like how he finishes it, but obviously it works.
Yeah. So bantamweight is one of the most stacked divisions in the entire promotion. So Ricky Simone, he's marching up with another statement win. Put on that matchmaker hat and give me the name of who you would want to see him go up against next.
So it's so hard because Ricky Simone is 11 in the UFC's rankings right now. I'll tell you where he is in mine for reference, in case it's much different. He is 12 in mine, so almost the same thing. The problem is every single bantamweight ahead of him is booked, other than Pedro Munoz, who I'm imagining is out for a bit with the eye, and Rob Font. And he's already fought Rob Font. But in the interest of keeping this division moving, I'm going to say that was back in 2019. It was a decision. Font's lost a couple. Simone looks better than ever. So you got to keep guys active. Everyone else is booked. I think it's not crazy to put them back in there and see if Simone can get that loss back.
I don't hate that. You're right. There are a ton of bookings at bantamweight right now.
Yep. Literally every guy.
I don't hate him waiting for Munoz to heal up. I feel like with a cornea,
yeah.
I feel like Munoz could potentially be back in 6 months or less.
I agree. I almost feel like he deserves a bigger reward. Like, he's been that guy. I want to look real quick.
Munoz?
No, Simone. Like, he has won.
He's 20-3.
He's won 5 in a row. I was just going to say that. He's won 5 in a row. He's 20-3 overall. His UFC record is 8-2.
Mm-hmm.
His only losses are the Rob Font one and Uriah Faber. Like, it feels like he has been ready for a reward. And to me, I don't know if I feel like Pedro Munoz feels like as big of a reward as Rob Font at least does, even though it's already happened.
Sure.
So that's why I went that way.
Okay.
I wish I could go a different way, but like I said, every single other bantamweight's booked.
Okay. Love it. Jack Shore's really good. Let's talk about him for a second.
He is
First loss of his career.
Yes. So he struggled with the physicality of Ricky Simon. So if it's me, I'm throwing him in there with, I don't want to say they're exactly similar because they're not, but a little bit of a similar fighter, worse version of Ricky Simon, which is Cody Stamann. He is a powerful guy in his own right. He can wrestle. He's got power in his hands. I think that type of body type, fast twitch type, I think that kind of guy is a guy Jack Shore has not come across yet until Ricky Simon, and I think it would be good for him to show that he can beat a guy like that, prove that he's worthy of another ranked fighter type opportunity.
Right away.
Off of if he could beat him, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not necessarily has to be a ranked fighter, but someone higher than Stamann, I would say. Stamann's obviously a little bit down.
Okay. Very good. All right, let's go into our mini lightning round, Mark. We're going to throw the final 4 fights of this UFC Fight Night into this little round. So let's prompt each other. Why don't you go first? You prompt me first.
Yes, Mike is going to be lightning for once here. We will start with Puna Soriano. Round 2 knockout of Dalsha Lungiambula. What'd you think?
Round 1 had the bizarre apparent rib injury of Dalsha. And then Puna Soriano parries a high kick that looked devastating or potentially devastating from Dalsha and immediately follows up with a devastating straight and puts him on Queer Street, finishes the fight. Great win for Puna Soriano. Can't wait to see him back out there again.
Yeah, I thought Puna looked great. That explosion in power in that finishing sequence, combined with the wrestling base that he does have, is what makes him so interesting. Like, the skills are there. And as he starts figuring out more ways to land clean on guys, as he gets a little more comfortable in there with his own striking, his own angles, he is going to start to level up because you saw what happens when he does land clean, and it was night-night.
Absolutely. Okay, my turn. Let's see. In the featherweight division, Bill Algeo TKO victory over Herbert Burns via retirement. What's your take?
This is another one I really wanted Omar's take on.
Yeah, me too.
Herbert Burns did exactly what we all thought he might do, which is to kind of have one round in him, and that's about it. Maybe he was really hurt. I don't know. Like, he was moving awful well for a guy who had such a hurt knee. Like, when they were on the feed, he was hopping around just fine. It looked like a gassed fighter to me, but I don't want to assume a guy wasn't hurt. Hopefully, for his sake, he really is hurt. But either way, Bill Algeo survives a triangle from a top-shelf BJJ practitioner in Burns, and then just absolutely puts it on him and makes him quit in there. So, big statement for Bill Algeo.
Don't we know that it was a torn something or other?
Have they confirmed it?
Something CL,
All I know is he just
ACL,
keeps
MCL.
saying his knee's fucked up. I hope so.
I want X-rays. Yeah, it's crazy that these two brothers, to me, they're kind of different. Gilbert is such a dog, man.
Yeah.
And it seems like Herbert, I mean, I hate to say this because the guy's a fucking UFC fighter, but I mean, at that level, yeah, it just seems like he clearly was, as long as Algeo was on top of him, he was happy to keep going and playing the jiu-jitsu game.
Yeah.
But once Algeo got up and was like, all right, get up. And he was like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe his knee was hurt. He was like, maybe he could grapple enough
Yeah.
with a knee that kind of hurts him, but he's like, I'm not going to try to stand on it.
I'm sure it was hurt. I guess I maybe framed up my take wrong. I don't mean to say I don't think it was hurt. I just feel like it was one of the weirder looking injuries I've seen because he was all that's about my knee, but he was moving fine on the feet and everything he was showing, he never limped. He never did anything.
Yeah.
He just looked tired as fuck. So if his knee injury somehow made him look tired, then I guess there you go. But it was weird.
Yeah,
it was weird. If
All
you're
right, let's move
watching
on.
this comment your take on what you thought happened here. I'm curious.
All right, let's move
all
on.
right, yeah, let's move on here. Next one, Dustin Jacoby, round 1 knockout of Da Un Jung.
I mean, this one's rather straightforward. I thought both guys just kind of, felt each other out, danced around a little bit, and not a whole lot was landed throughout this fight until the big one came for Jacoby. He jumped in there and landed a devastating right straight, and he put Da Un Jung on Queer Street, and that was the fight.
Yeah, Da Un Jung came out and fought a straight kickboxing match with Dustin Jacoby. So maybe there was more of a mix coming down the line. But to that point, that's all he did. And I guess he was doing fine to that point until he wasn't. But Jacoby looked great. He looked like himself. He was throwing kicks again. Clearly his legs are healed up. And as we know, he's a dangerous man to be standing there striking with. He's probably going to find the off switch before you are. And he did here. So big win for him. And let's get this man a ranked opponent now.
Absolutely. All right, last one. In the women's strawweight division, Emily Ducati, unanimous decision over Jessica Penne.
Yeah, Ducati fought a nearly perfect fight for her. She stuffed every takedown. She landed her power shots. She tore Penne's leg apart with calf kicks. Penne would not quit despite fighting on one leg, so credit to her. But a really impressive debut for Emily Ducati, who will be fun to watch in this division.
All right. And since that first fight of the night is the only one that I didn't make to the screen, that's it for our letting round. So, thank you. That does it for our recap of UFC Fight Night Ortega versus Rodriguez. And now, Mark, give us an update of who has risen and who has fallen in your very own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings.
It's a tiny update this week. We got one riser and one faller. There wasn't a ton of big moves. The riser, obvious one, is Emily Ducati, going from not being ranked and not being in the UFC to debuting as my number 15 women's strawweight. You debut against Jessica Penne with a win. You're going to land pretty high in the rankings right out of the gate. We knew she was good from her time in Invicta and her resume there, but she proves it here. So she jumps in as my number 15 ranked strawweight. I'm actually curious if she cracked the UFCs. I'm going to guess not. But let's see. She did. Number 14 in the UFCs. Wow, look at them actually doing something that makes sense. And then the faller was our boy Herbert Burns. Goes from number 29 to number 36 in my featherweight rankings. Not a great look for Burns in this one. He falls to 2-2 in the octagon. Takes a bit of a tumble down the rankings in this one. And that is it for the week. Like I said, there was some small moves, but nothing that was so significant. It was a lot of people who were already ranked higher, beating guys who were ranked lower. So not a lot of major moves don't happen when that's the case. So just those two for this week.
Nice. Drop us a comment below if you are familiar with the UFC rankings and if you think that the Priaulx rankings are a better reflection of the state of rankings in the UFC.
They're coming, people, so you can fully enjoy them. They're coming. I put my eyes on the, what's it called? Like the model website. There's a different word that I want to say, but I have seen it as of yesterday. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
Awesome. Can't wait. Ranking MMA, watch out. All right. Well, that being said, no headlines or current events in MMA because no Omar this week. Is there anything that you want to just quickly bring up, Mark? Anything that has any bombs that have dropped today or yesterday or this past week?
I mean, there was definitely a lot of fight announcements. What have we seen? We saw Beneil Dariush get booked against Mateusz Gamrot, which is a huge fight.
Huge.
Part of me is like, wow, I'm surprised Dariush took that just because I feel like he had finally hit the point where he needed to get like a marquee name, and as good as Gamrot is, he's not that yet. But good for Dariush getting back in there. Huge opportunity for Gamrot. That's a big fight. We saw, what else? We saw Nate.
The biggest one.
And
the big one.
Khamzat Chimaev get booked for a 5-rounder.
Jesus Christ.
We've talked about it on the show quite a few times. I have told you that Dana, as soon as he heard Nate didn't want to re-sign, wanted to make sure Nate got mauled on his way out the door. It seemed like it wasn't going to happen. Dana got his way, and he has put him in there for 5 rounds with Khamzat Chimaev, and he's probably going to maul him for all 5 of the rounds. But, hey, it's Nate Diaz. Who knows what happens, but it doesn't seem good. I think the odds I saw were minus 1,200 for Chimaev. So that tells you what you need to know there.
I'd be surprised if it made it out of the first.
Would you really? God.
I mean,
Part of me thinks Chimaev is going to strike for at least a round, just to, like, be in there with Nate Diaz. But maybe I'm wrong.
How much of a chance are you giving Nate?
God.
Oh, I know.
Oh, God. It's like if Chimaev ever said, I'm going to stand in here because I want to box with Nate Diaz, like coming off the Gilbert Burns fight, maybe he's feeling cool about his striking. Nate's live, but it's not like Nate has knockout power. It's kind of got to be an accumulation, and it's usually when guys are tired. So, like, a small chance. And then, obviously, Nate's jiu-jitsu is disgusting. But is he really going to catch Chimaev in, like, a triangle or something? Like, I don't, again, it's Nate Diaz, so anything's possible. But not much of a chance. Not much of a chance. You?
And, I mean, I don't know. 5% is generous?
Yeah.
It feels kind of cruel. Nate is a guy who I have said many times on this show. I want him at 155, man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He fought his best fights at 155.
And
now he's fighting a guy.
Fucking middleweight half the time.
He's fighting a middleweight, basically. So you have a lightweight fighting a middleweight, and he's just going to. The word is mauled. He's going to get mauled. I don't see a way around it. I don't see Chimaev doing what Leon Edwards did. I don't see Chimaev letting his guard down for that moment where Nate can land a 1-2 clean on the chin.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's ever going to get there. So it just feels cruel. I'm sure the UFC is paying Nate a pretty sizable chunk of cash for this fight, and he's going to take this cash and walk away with the middle finger, pointing backwards, and happy trails to Nate Diaz. But don't you kind of want Nate to just kind of upend the hype train of Chimaev?
Oh, 100%. Can you imagine if, as much as we're not giving Nate much of a chance, the risk here for the UFC in wanting to get him mauled because they know he's leaving and they say, see you later, Nate. Oh, he stunk anyway, like Dana likes to do. He's already saying, when's the last time Nate Diaz has won a fight? Meanwhile, like last fight, he's like, Nate Diaz is the greatest thing in the world. Then he finds out he wants to leave. Oh, Nate Diaz stinks. But they want him to look bad. Can you imagine if he is the man who beats Khamzat Chimaev? He will be bigger than he's been since the day he beat Conor.
Maybe.
And then he'll say, see you later, UFC, and go fight Jake Paul or some shit. Oh, my God.
I mean, that would really solidify Nate Diaz's legacy
sure.
as this giant killer.
For sure. If he ever beat Chimaev, do you think there's any chance he would be like, well, fuck it, I just beat Chimaev. I want Usman.
I'll stay. I want to renegotiate.
Like,
yeah, right. I'll fight Usman. Thanks for $5 million or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
But what I mean, I have to harp on this for 1 second. What would be the path to victory for Nate Diaz against Khamzat Chimaev?
In all seriousness, I really can't see a striking-related path. I think Chimaev's gas tank is too good. I don't think he's going to allow himself to have enough accumulated damage to get knocked out by Nate Diaz. I think the only avenue to victory is like a triangle off his back. That's the only thing I can see.
And I also feel that I don't see Nate breaking Chimaev's will or spirit. I don't think there are enough middle fingers and F-bombs that Nate can hurl at Chimaev that will get Chimaev's also has a iron will as well.
Yep.
All right. Any other fight announcements? Sterling Dillashaw moved to 280. Will now be on UFC 280.
Oh yeah, that was an announcement. Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't moved. That just broke. That was official. So yeah, that's
happening. Oh, and another huge one.
Yeah.
Peter Yan versus.
Right. Yan and O'Malley. I forgot.
What a step up for O'Malley.
Holy shit,
dude! I was
thinking.
I was literally thinking about this matchup for an embarrassing amount of my workday today. Of like, Sean O'Malley's gonna fight Peter Yan. That son of a bitch. You know what I mean?
It's just so interesting because it always like intrigues me when we get instances like this, and we've gotten them before, where it's like the guy who's up and coming just skips a step or two, and you're like, well, how do I pick this fight? Because I don't know if he's actually this good yet, because he just skipped his way up here. And that's how I feel about this one. It's like maybe Sean O'Malley belongs in there with Peter Yan, but maybe he doesn't. Like, I have no idea.
Man. But Peter Yan, man, it is no joke.
4-1 odds. That was the early I saw. Yan was minus 400. O'Malley was plus 300.
Wow. I think it could be wider, to be honest.
I'll tell you what.
I'm not a big betting guy, so I don't know.
At 3-1 odds, I may sprinkle O'Malley. Like, what if he is this good? Who knows? I'll put maybe a little something.
Maybe, man.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But I'll be picking Yan.
Yeah, I think so, too. Let's move on. Okay. That does it for our sad version of Inside the MMA Sphere without Omar. Okay, a lot of fights happening this weekend. One championship, Bellator, UFC. Let's first talk about one championship, big main event in one's middleweight division. You want to talk about it real quick?
Surely. So, yeah, we'll just touch on the main event quick here because it is featuring Reiner de Ritter. If you don't know him, he is ONE FC's 205-pound champion, which, remember, they don't cut weight over there, so that is basically like middleweight. And he is their 225-pound champion, so that is basically like light heavyweight. So he's a two-weight champ over there. He is the guy who has said a few times that he would beat Israel Adesanya with ease, says he would just take him down and there's nothing Israel could do about it, and that he'd hold him there and beat him up or tap him and so on. Not sure about the validity of that one, but either way, Reiner de Ritter is very good. Great wrestling and grappling. He is not a great striker as of yet. I would say that's where he needs the most improvement, but he's coming along. But he's an undefeated fighter. He's 15-0. He's been walking through ONE FC. Obviously, he's a two-weight champ, as I said. He has even mentioned wanting to try to move up to heavyweight and be a three-weight champ, which would be wild, no matter who you are. He is fighting Vitaly Bigdash, who has had a good resume lately himself. Some solid wins over in one. I can't find the odds because you can never find one odds. I don't understand it. Why you cannot. I imagine de Ritter's got to be the favorite. I'm sure that Bigdash is going to try to keep this thing on the feet. But if you don't know Reiner de Ritter, he is certainly good enough for your attention. And I would say if you're a crazed MMA fan like us, it's worth seeking out this main event if you have not seen him to see what he brings to the table.
Cool, man. I'll definitely be trying to tune in somehow. How can the fans watch, Mark?
They're always changing up. It might be YouTube, this one. I know they're coming soon to like TV in the US. Now you have me curious. Let's see.
Are they coming to the US?
To TV in the US, I'm saying. Like they have a TV deal coming up. Why doesn't this say how you fucking watch? I don't know. I can't help you guys. It doesn't say. Oh, OneFC.com maybe? Is this? Yeah, I think this one might be on OneFC.com. I don't know.
Quite possible.
It's rather unclear. Everything ONE FC does is unclear.
All right.
It's like their MO.
In the interest of time, let's move on to the other event happening this Friday night. Bellator 283, Lima versus Jackson. Do you want to make some honorable mentions before the main event, or talk about main event first?
I'll tell you a few other fights before the main event. You have Lorenz Larkin back. He, after just talking about how he wanted to try to make a run at middleweight, he is already back down at welterweight, so much for that one. He is fighting, as I just closed it, I want to make sure I say the man's name right, Mokhamed Berhamov. He debuted in Bellator against Jaleel Willis, had a nice win. He looked really good. He's an undefeated fighter. So the odds on this were very close when I looked. This is what I was talking about when I'm a little more unprepared tonight than usual. Usually I have this all up in front of me. Yeah, Berkamo's the favorite. He's minus 140 to Lorenz's plus 125. You know me, I'm always going to be picking Lorenz, but that sounds like it's going to be a banger. From there, we have Usman Nurmagomedov, who continues to march up the Bellator lightweight rankings. He's probably starting to get fairly close to a title shot. I was hoping that he maybe had a bit of a bigger name here, but he is going to be across from Chris Gonzalez, who has proven that he's very good. He's 6-1 in Bellator. He beat Vladimir Tokov. He beat Syed Awad. His only loss is Goichi Yamauchi, who's a good fighter in his own right. So this would be a nice test for Usman Nurmagomedov, who, as we know, has looked very good. I'll give you those odds while we're here. He's a he's like a minus 700 favorite, so obviously they do believe. But Gonzalez will be a nice test. And then the co-main is actually very good. We were supposed to have Sidney Outlaw fighting Patricky Pitbull for the lightweight title, but Patricky is hurt, but they have kept Sidney Outlaw on the card, and instead we have Tafik Musayev coming over to Bellator for the first time. He's a guy, if you remember, who has already fought Patricky Pitbull and beat him when Patricky went over to Ryzen. So if he can get a win over Outlaw, I'm sure he's going to be fighting for the title right away, too, because he's already got that W in his back pocket over Patricky Pitbull. So obviously, Outlaw, it's tough. He had a title shot. Now he doesn't. He's got to go one more step. But whoever wins this fight, I'm sure will be fighting for the title against Patricky when he is back. For reference, Tafik Musayev has won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 13 out of 14. He lost his last fight to Roberto de Souza, who's very good in his own right over in Ryzen. He's a 14-1 fighter himself. But that's a great co-main. I will give you the odds on that one as well. Musayev is the slight favorite, minus 160 to Outlaws plus 130. And that is the rundown before we get into this main event.
Okay, so in the main event, you have Douglas the Phenom Lima, 34-year-old Brazilian. Record stands at 32-10. He is a 6'1" tall welterweight with 10 submission victories to his name and 16 knockouts. I can't do mental math that well, but that is quite the finish rate. That's something like an 80% finish rate, I think. Yeah. However, in spite of his great resume, he is coming off 3 losses heading into this Friday night against Jason Jackson. Most recently against Michael Venom Page and their rematch at Bellator 267 Lima versus MVP 2 in a split decision. Jason Jackson, the ass-kicking machine, great nickname, from Jamaica, 31 years old also. Record stands at 15-4, 4 knockouts, 3 subs. He's streaking into this Friday night, riding a 5-fight win streak, most recently defeating Paul Daly back in June by UD. Nice fight. Jason Jackson versus the Phenom, Douglas Lima. What's your take?
Yeah, this is a really nice fight. I like this one a lot. Jason Jackson has looked really good since coming over to Bellator. He lost his debut by a split decision that maybe he should have won. Since then, he has rattled off 5 straight, beating names like Jordan Meehan, Benson Henderson, Neiman Gracie, Paul Daly. The guy's looked very good. He's not a huge finishing threat. He more relies on the control and the wrestling. He does have hands, but he's just a guy who tends to take rounds from you in there. And obviously Douglas Lima, we know. The guy has quite the resume. Obviously the former Bellator welterweight champion, as you said. He's fallen on some rough times here. He is the underdog in this fight as well. Jason Jackson is minus 185. Douglas Lima is plus 155 as the dog, which is even a little wider than I expected. I thought maybe Jackson would be favored just because of the recent performances. I didn't think it'd be that wide. I think this is a competitive fight. Obviously, Lima can be taken down. I don't know if I'm ready to not pick Douglas Lima. Like, Jason Jackson is good. Don't get me wrong. He's strong. He's got good cardio. Like I said, he knows how to win rounds. He knows how to steal rounds, land the timely takedown. I'm not ready to not pick Douglas Lima against someone who I don't think is elite. And I'm going to say Douglas Lima can stay on his feet enough. Obviously, he is the better striker when they're there. He will be winning. He's going to be, I'm sure, still using his leg kicks. He never really seems to be deterred, even if wrestling's coming back at him. I'm sure he's going to be trying to chew up Jackson's legs. I think he can do enough. I'm going to say he finds a way to get 3 rounds in there, and I will take Lima 48-47 decision.
I'm tempted to go with you, and I do think that Lima is on a pretty elite level.
The question is he falling off of it?
Exactly. I was just going to say, with 3 losses, he's 34 years old. Is he falling off of it at welterweight? Why not? I'll go with Jason Jackson. I'm going to say he's going to keep the streak alive, and he's going to really catapult himself with this win into quite a bit more name recognition in the MMA community by defeating Douglas Lima. I'll say by unanimous decision. Makes sense to me. Let's move on now to UFC Fight Night, UFC London, a.k.a. UFC Fight Night Blaydes versus Aspinall, going down once again at the O2 Arena in London, England, this Saturday night, July 23rd. Let's move our way up through this card, Mark, starting in the welterweight division. Claudio Silva takes on Nicolas Dalby. Give me a quick take and a quick pick.
I like this fight. It's an interesting one. Both of these guys can look really good and then can kind of look confusingly off at times, I would say. But I have a lot more confidence in Nicolas Dalby at this point in time. Obviously, Claudio Silva is a guy who beat Leon Edwards years back. But I feel like as of late, he doesn't look like the same guy in there. He looks like he has kind of fallen off to me. His jits is nasty, so he's certainly a live dog just because of the fact that if it hits the mat, he's going to have a big advantage. But I always like Dalby's game. As much as he sometimes loses a fight that I feel like he shouldn't lose, he's good. He never goes away. He's there all 15 minutes. He keeps bringing it. He does have quality wins, and I think that he can make Silva work enough. I think he can resist the takedown, and I'm going to say he actually kind of pieces him up. 30-27 Dalby.
30-27 Dalby. Okay. Moving on up now to the women's flyweight division. Victoria Leandro takes on Mandy. I think that name might be
Bohm.
It is Bohm?
Yeah.
German? Okay.
Yeah, this one, 2 girls who are winless in the octagon so far. Leonardo's coming back from a broken arm, I believe it was, or wrist. I can't even remember now. I think it was arm. So we will see how she looks. Kind of a quick return, honestly. But Bohm should be stronger. She's longer. She had more hype coming in despite dropping her UFC debut. So I will say that it was just a rough debut, and I will go with her to win a decision.
Okay, in the lightweight division, Jai Herbert takes on Kyle Nelson. Jai, the Black Country Banger. I love this nickname.
Yeah.
Taking on the monster, Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson, 13-4, 31-year-old Canadian coming off of a loss against Billy Q. And the Black Country Banger from England, of course, the hometown boy in this matchup, 11-4 as a pro, also coming off of a pretty devastating loss at the hands of one Ilia Topuria. Mark, give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, I still think Jai Herbert is good. He's been dealt a pretty tough hand in the UFC. He debuted against Francisco Trinaldo and looked good until he ended up losing that fight. Then he had to fight Renato Moicano, then gets Kama worthy and gets a win, then gets thrown in there with Ilia Topuria. So he's fought a bit of a murderer's row so far. I think this fight is obviously a different level than those, and I think he's going to show out. I think this is a matchup where he can really put it on. Kyle Nelson, also Nelson coming up from featherweight, so there won't be really much of a size issue for Herbert. I think he puts it on him. He's going to have the crowd behind him. I think it kind of looks like that round one he had against Ilia Topuria, except this time the man falls down and he gets the win. So I will say Jai Herbert, round one KO.
Okay. Moving up into the flyweight division, I'm very excited for this fight. We have Charles Johnson taking on Mokaev. Mokaev, of course, making a splash in his UFC debut, the last event at London, which was the last UFC Fight Night London, back in March, where he defeated Cody Jourdain by submission via guillotine choke in the very first round. Charles, I love this, energy, inner as in like within, energy. The American on foreign ground, 11-2 as a professional, 31 years old, riding a 4-fight win streak in LFA, making his UFC debut. Give us your take on Muhammad Mokaev welcoming Charles Johnson for his debut into the UFC on his home turf.
I think this one is only going one way. The 21-year-old Muhammad Mokaev on a path to try to be the youngest champion ever. I don't know if he's going to get there in time because I think he would only have like a year to do that. I'm trying to remember exactly what the number is. I think it's 22. But, yeah, he has everything. He does it all. This fight has some hype on it. They've been talking a lot of shit back and forth actually coming into this one. I don't know Johnson well, but I've seen some clips of him, and the man can certainly kickbox. So that makes me think Mokaev will just go to the wrestling in this one. So I think we will probably see a couple slams and eventually a tap. So I will say Muhammad Mokaev round 2 submission, and he continues up the flyweight ranks.
Nice. I'll say round 1 TKO this time. I think Mokaev's going to keep rolling. He's going to stay undefeated and probably get a nice opponent in the next time. They're probably in London again. I don't know. They're letting these London guys just kind of hang out in the UK. It's great.
Yeah, it is.
Everybody involved. Okay. Marching up now into the featherweight division, Makwan Amirkhani taking on Jonathan Pierce. Amirkhani, the Finn from Finland, his nickname Mr. Finland, coming off a win against Mike Grundy back in March at UFC Fight Night, Volkov Aspinall of UFC London. He's 33 years old. His record stands at 17-7 with 12 submission victories. Jonathan Pierce, the American challenger, JPS, 12-4 as a pro. He's 30 years old, riding a 3-fight win streak coming into Saturday night. Most recently, defeating Christian Rodriguez by UD back in February. Mark, give us your take.
So I haven't been giving you guys the lines. For what it's worth, everyone I've picked so far was a fairly large favorite. But I'll tell you in this one, because I'm going to go with the dog here. Makwan Amirkhani is a plus 170 dog. Jonathan Pierce is like minus 210-ish. But I think that Amirkhani can win this fight. I'm not 100% sold on Jonathan Pierce being able to stay safe. None of his wins are wins that make me feel like he is definitely this level. He looks good. He could be this level. But he had some struggles grappling with Joe Lozon. Makwan Amirkhani is not terribly dissimilar. I know it's always risky as hell picking an Amirkhani fight because as good as he looks when he wins, then when he loses, he kind of like looks great in round 1 and starts to gas. But it feels like he's been working through that lately, improving that hole in his game. And I kind of think he's going to catch Pierce. I think Pierce might look for the takedown, feel a little too comfortable in there, and be the next victim of Makwan Amirkhani. He snatches things up real fast. Guys don't see it coming, and I'm going to say he does it again. I will say round 1 sub.
Love it. Love that pick. I will parrot that pick. I will echo you. I'm going to say round 1 sub as well. I think he's a specialist, and I like his chances against Jonathan Pierce here. And he's going to go 2 in a row now in the UFC. I believe it'll be his second time. No, third time. Winning more than 1 fight in a row. Okay, let's move on to the featherweight division again. Nathaniel Wood taking on Charles Boston Strong Rosa. Nathaniel, the prospect Wood, the hometown boy from Morden, England, Greater London area. 28-year-old, pretty young in his prime. 17-5 as a pro, coming off a loss against Casey Kenny. Both guys looking to get back in the win column because Charles Rosa coming off back-to-back losses against Damon Jackson and T.J. Brown coming in Saturday night. Rosa from Massachusetts, hence the nickname Boston Strong. 35-year-old, turning 36 this August. He's 14-7 as a professional with 8 submissions to his name. Should be a good matchup. Mark, give us your pick.
Yeah, so Nathaniel Wood finally makes the move up to featherweight here. He's teased it for a while. He's had some struggles making weight at bantamweight. Makes the move up. I'm a little surprised he didn't get a bigger name opponent out of the gate. He's a guy who was like at least kind of touching on the top 20 at bantamweight. I'm not sure. I actually think he was ranked at one point by the UFC. So he was kind of up there at bantamweight. I thought maybe he would get a little bit more of an established name than Charles Rosa. He is a pretty big favorite. He's like minus 500. And I think he gets it done. Rosa is tough. He's tricky. But I think Wood is just the better striker. I think he's more capable overall. I think he maybe hurts Rosa at one point, and I'll say he takes a clear decision.
Yeah, I'll take the guy with the better finish rate as well. 9 knockouts, 5 subs for Nathaniel Wood. I think this is going to be a fun one for the hometown crowd in London to watch. I'll go Nathaniel Wood. Let's go first round TKO.
I'm actually going to change my pick. I don't think it makes it to the cards. I'm gonna say Wood finishes him late, 3rd round TKO.
Okay. Let's see. Fun one. In the lightweight division, we have the 15-5 Mark Jacasey, the hometown guy, taking on Damir. How do you say his last name? Do you know? Hadzovic. From Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Bosnian bomber, Damir Hadzovic. 35-year-old, also turning 36 this August, 14-6 as a pro, with pretty decent finish rate, 7 knockouts, 3 subs coming off of a victory against Yancy Medeiros back of June of last year. And then you have Mark Jacasey. I've always liked Mark Jacasey. He's an exciting guy to watch, 29-year-old in that prime, from Doncaster, England, 15-5 as a pro. Mostly decisions, 8 decisions to his name. Also coming off of a victory back on UFC on ESPN 33 in March of this year. Mark, give us your take and your pick.
I'm going Mark Jacasey. I think he has hit a point where he's finally putting it all together. Obviously, he debuted in the UFC with some hype. He's had his ups, he's had his downs. I think it's coming together now for him. Last fight, we saw a fight where he was able to really show off his wrestling. And I feel like we're going to get the flip of that here. Hadzovic, he could wrestle, but I'm not sure you want to go on the ground with Hadzovic. But I think that this will be one where Jacasey can show off the striking. I think Hadzovic is kind of straightforward on the feet. Not that he can't hurt you, because he can, but I think Jacasey is just too varied of a striker, too fluid of a striker. I think he's going to land clean on Hadzovic, and I'm going to say he looks really good and finishes it off in round 2 knockout.
Knockout for Jacasey. Wow. Not a lot of knockouts on his record. It's funny because he looks so impressive. He has a great physique, but I have not always thought of him as a big knockout guy.
I don't necessarily either. I just feel like the way he is trending, the UK crowd behind him, the fact that I think Hadzovic is pretty hittable, I'm gonna say it all comes together beautifully. And I'll probably be wrong, but that's what I'm gonna say.
I think another fun one for Jacasey, but I'm going to say he'll get it done by decision. I'll go unanimous decision for Jacasey here. Okay, next matchup in the featured bout on the prelims on ESPN Plus. In the lightweight division, Mason the Dragon Jones takes on Ludovic Mr. Highlight Klein. So Klein is on the away team here. He is from Slovakia, 27-year-old. 18-4 as a pro. Coming off of a win against Devontae Smith in UFC 272 back in March of this year by split decision. Mason Jones, the Dragon again, the Welshman, 27 years old, 11-1 as a pro with one no contest. Also coming off a win against David Onama back in October of last year. 4 knockouts, 3 subs of those 11 victories. So not a bad finish rate for the Dragon Jones. Mark, give us your take.
I like Mason Jones. I think that he is better than he has been able to show in the UFC thus far. He's had some cancellations. He had a no contest at one point in a fight that he was clearly winning. So he's had some tough breaks. Klein is a dangerous fighter. Obviously, the man can strike. He can't be dismissed. Comes out hot in round 1. I think Jones will have to get through round 1, but I think he can. I think Jones will ultimately just out MMA him. I think he can take the fight where he wants it, present more challenges than Klein can. I think he'll outpace him. I think he'll push the pace, and I think he'll win the cards in a fun fight.
Yeah, I like Jones. I feel like on the prelims, the UFC has done a decent job of matching up all the hometown guys with opponents where they should walk away with the W. So I'll take Jones as well. I'll say TKO in round 2. But I feel like that's not so much the case, Mark, in the main card, where things get a bit more dicey, a bit more competitive. So let's march up now into this main card for UFC London, UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Aspinall. Starting things off in the main card in the light heavyweight division, Paul Craig takes on Volkan Oezdemir. Oezdemir coming off of a few losses. Let me pull this up real quick.
Couple.
Pause. Yeah, back-to-back losses against Prohaska and Ankalaev. Nothing to scoff at, but I personally didn't think that Oezdemir looked very good in either of those fights. I think he's looked pretty hittable. And then you have Paul Craig, who is, fight by fight has become sort of a fan favorite. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. For sure, I would agree. Yeah, absolutely.
And again, on home turf, he is the Scotsman. And he is riding a 4-fight win streak. Hasn't lost a fight since 2019 against Alonzo Menefield. Coming off of a submission win against Nikita Krylov back in March of this year. So this is a fun fight. Give us your pick, Mark.
It is a fun fight. I had kind of been hoping that Paul Craig would get something bigger than this. I almost feel like his resume of late has kind of already moved him past Volkan Oezdemir, so he's got to make – I feel like Oezdemir is almost a similar level of test that Krylov was, but obviously Craig's going to have to take a little bit of the long road here. He'll have to make another stop and prove that he can get past Oezdemir. And he is the dog. He is plus 130 is Paul Craig. Oezdemir is minus 160. I think I'm going to go with Paul Craig. It's such an interesting fight because Paul Craig obviously can be hit, though he's improving that a lot. There was a time where he was almost there to be hit. And if Volkan gets to hit you clean, you're going to drop. The man's got sneaky power even in small shots. But Craig has been improving that part of his game a lot. He's getting much more comfortable as a striker. He's honestly getting much more comfortable everywhere. He used to even kind of struggle to get fights to the mat where he wanted them. And now he's getting so much better at, even if it's unorthodox ways, he gets you down there. So his game is just really coming together in a way that works for him. But he's going to have to make sure to not get cracked by Volkan because the power is real. And then on the flip side, if this thing does hit the mat, Volkan, he has great takedown D, so I'm sure he's thinking he can keep it up. But if he lets it hit the mat, I don't think he lasts long down there. So I think each guy's playing with fire, depending if they're standing or if they're on the ground. I just think, like I said, I think Craig has gotten really crafty and really good at finding ways to get things to the mat, to create off-balance situations, even if it's not a traditional takedown. I just think you end up there with him. And if he can avoid, I'm sure he'll get hit with some things early. If it's not a one-hitter quitter, if he can eat a couple things and stay in it, I think it ends up falling to the ground one way or another, even if it's a pull guard type situation. And I think when they're there, I'm going to trust Paul Craig to get it done. I will say Paul Craig gets another submission and keeps going up.
Love it. I think that's the perfect pick because that's also my pick. I think I'm really picking against Volkan Ozdemir at this point. Other than Ilir Latifi, he had a split decision against Rakic. Other than that, lost to Cormier, lost to Anthony Smith, lost to Dominic Reyes, lost to Prohaska, lost to Ankalaev. This guy, at this point, I feel like he's not really top tier, and I think he's hittable. And I think that Paul Craig is going to get inside, and he's going to wrap those longer arms around Volkan Ozdemir. And like you said, I think this fight is going to wind up on the mat, and Paul Craig is going to do what he does best, and that is submissions. I forgot to mention, of his 16 victories as a professional, 13 of them wins by submission. This man is a specialist, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get it twisted. So I'm going to say Paul Craig by submission. I'll go round 2 because it's in the middle.
What did I say? Did I say round 1? I forget what I even said now.
I might have said round 1.
Maybe I didn't say.
I forget as well.
I might have
you didn't say a round.
Round 1.
Let's go. Be bold. Okay, I think the streak for the Brits and the English is going to be pretty good for this card. Okay, Molly Meatball McCann taking on Hannah 24K Goldie. Molly, the home team here from Liverpool. 2-fight win streak going into Saturday night. Most recently defeating Luana Carolina at the most previous UFC London back in March. Round 3 knockout via spinning elbow beauty. Hannah Goldie, the American, challenging on foreign soil. 30 years old, 6-2 as a pro. Her record's only 6-2.
I thought it was less than that. To be honest,
not a lot of fights. How do you get in the UFC with only 6-2?
I thought she had like 5 fights.
You're not close. You're not far off.
Yeah, 6-2.
Hannah Goldie is coming off of a win against Emily Whitmere back in September of 2021. Submission via armbar in the first round. So give me your take, Mark. What's your pick between Hannah Goldie and Molly McCann?
So this one fits your bill of the British fighters matched up with someone who they can beat. McCann is minus 400 here. Goldie is plus 310. It's interesting because Goldie is, as you said, she's kind of new to the game. She's learning on the job. She has shown some signs. She's a physical force. And McCann, as good as she is, you know, sometimes like what she's doing doesn't 100% make sense in there, and she loses around in a way that she shouldn't and so on. So I could actually see this turning into kind of a scrap and being a fun one. So I do think McCann wins no matter what, but I think maybe she may even drop a round somehow, and it'll be like 29-28 McCann instead of what feels like should be a 30-27. But I think fun fight, fans behind her, McCann wins a decision.
As I often do, Mark, I like your analysis. I'll make it interesting. I'll say Hannah Goldie steals one by a split decision.
Ooh.
And Molly McCann is going to disappoint. Although last time at UFC London,
oh baby,
it was like a fucking dance party when she won.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
To be honest, I didn't before the most previous UFC in London. I wasn't that familiar with Molly McCann, but my God, she's so popular.
Oh yeah,
over there.
Well, I think it's the Pimblett Association has
really
Liverpool skyrocketed her.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean she's got a nice little UFC record. She's 5-3 in the UFC. So
yeah. Okay, moving up to the big boys in the light heavyweight division, we have Nikita Krylov taking on Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson. So neither one of these guys are really the hometown guy. This is a Ukrainian taking on a Swede. So Krylov, the miner, Miner, by the way. So it's like someone who works in a mine, not a young person. You sicko. 30 years old, from Ukraine, 6'3". Record stands at 27-9. No joke. Great finish rate. Only one victory by decision. 11 knockouts, 15 submissions. He is, however, coming off back-to-back losses. Most recently against Paul Craig, who was also on this card. At the most previous UFC Fight Night in London back in March. Paul Craig finished him with a triangle choke in the first round. Alexander Gustafsson really needs no introduction. One of the great light heavyweights that the sport has seen. At this point, he's 35 years old, 18-7 as a pro, 11 knockouts. However, he's riding a 3-fight losing streak coming into Saturday night, losing against John Jones, Anthony Smith, and Fabricio Verdum at heavyweight back in July of 2020. So he's trying to turn back time, get a win at UFC London. Mark, give us your take and your pick.
Can you believe we're picking an Alexander Gustafsson fight right now? It feels weird. Like, I almost didn't expect to see him again. And I feel like this kind of...
I thought he was done.
When I went to look at this card for this show, I was like, oh, shit, we're at it. Like, it's the Gustafsson one. Like, I forgot it was even happening. This is a hard one for me. I have this issue in picking fights. It's that I look at this fight, and I think that prime Alexander Gustafsson wouldn't lose to Nikita Krylov, and it makes me want to pick Gustafsson. And then I end up being wrong when I do it. Because, frankly, the man hasn't won a fight in 5 years. So he is not prime Alexander Gustafsson at all. And Krylov is a tough matchup. Like, Krylov is super dangerous everywhere. He's a tough guy to try to shake rust off against. Like, he will hurt you on the feet. He's in there to scrap. He'll take you down. Even if you take him down, he's active on bottom. He can snatch up subs out of nowhere, and Gustafsson's been a little bit prone to being subbed at times. He lost his last one by sub, I want to say, right? To Verdum, that was by sub, right? So, I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, which is pick Gustafsson because this is just who I am, and I can't help it. But don't follow me betting this one because it's a dangerous ask for Gustafsson to return here. Obviously, we have no idea what he's going to look like. I'd love to say that he will stuff takedowns that Krylov tries to initiate, that he can maybe even get his own and that he'll be able to be safe on top and have some ground and pound, or that he'll just keep it standing and we'll see the old Gus who can keep that range, and even though there's like head kicks coming at him and some crazy things from Krylov, that he's just the one scoring more, landing cleaner shots, winning with his boxing. And I will say for the sake of the pick, we get a 29-28 Gus. But again, do not follow me here because 5 years since a win, a couple years off. Don't know what he's going to look like. I think it's a tough matchup to walk back into.
So just a little bit of the history. So he tried to go up to heavyweight. He took on Fabricio Verdum. Probably thought he was going to have a speed advantage. He lost that fight via armbar in round one. Then he was going to go back down to light heavy and face Paul Craig in a light heavyweight bout in September of 2021. However, a week before that event, Gus withdrew with an injury. Then he was supposed to face Ben Rothwell at heavyweight again in May of this year. However, at the end of March, it was announced that Ben Rothwell was released by the UFC. And here we are in the summer of 2022, and Gus finally has a fight, and it is in 48 hours or 72 hours or whatever. Hopefully, it all goes according to plan. That being said,
I should note before you pick, he is the dog. He's plus 170. Krylov is minus 200.
I don't doubt it. I feel like I want to pick Gus because he's I hesitate to call him a legend. I'll say
a legend.
He's a little bit of a legend.
Yeah.
And but that being said, I want to take a page and learn from watching Miesha Tate.
Yeah. And
be like, you know what? I'm going to learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, you're better at being smart about these than me. I always get too sentimental.
Yeah, in sort of in Miesha style. I'm like, is he 35 as well?
Yep.
Gus. He's 35, ton of miles on his body, on that huge Swedish body. And he tried to what's the word? revitalized himself by going up to heavyweight. Then he was probably cutting again to try to fight Paul Craig. That didn't happen. Then he was going to go up again and fight Ben Rothwell, and that didn't happen. So all these training camps are also taking a toll as well.
Yep, I agree.
And also time. And I think, like you said, I think Krylov is not the best matchup for him, quite frankly. A guy who is as dangerous as Krylov. So I will go Krylov. I think Krylov is going to finish him, and I'll say it's not going to look pretty.
Oof.
And then I think Gus is going to have to walk away. And I've been a big Alexander Gustafsson fan from the get-go. But I think he's going to walk away. He probably should walk away because I think that Krylov is going to finish him by TKO in round 1.
Oof. That would be tough.
Yeah. Okay. Fun one. Lightweight division, we have Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Jourdain Levitt. So Paddy might be the most popular guy on this whole card. Paddy the Baddy from Liverpool, coming off of most recently his win against Rodrigo Vargas back at UFC London in March. Finished him with the rear naked choke in round number 1. Paddy riding a 4-fight win streak as a pro. He's 2-0 so far in the UFC, and he is 18-3 overall with 6 KOs, 8 submissions. That's a pretty good finish rate. I like what I see. Jourdain the Monkey King Levitt from the U.S. He is the challenger in this case from Las Vegas. He himself is also riding a 2-fight win streak coming into Saturday night. Most recently, a split decision win over Trey Ogden back in April of this year. 10-1 as a pro, Jourdain Levitt, so pretty impressive stuff so far. Only 1 knockout, 6 submissions, though, to his name. So 2 guys that are both pretty comfortable on the mat here. What's your assessment, Mark, of this matchup?
I just closed the odds by accident, which I wanted to give you to start. Here we go. So Paddy is the favorite here. He's minus 260, and Jourdain Levitt is plus 210 on the other end. So, yeah, the UFC continues their slow march of Paddy Pimblett up the ranks. It is a slow march. It's been baby steps that they're giving him here, but I get it. I do think that this is the one where if he beats Jourdain Levitt, looks good doing it. I think next fight he's in there with someone who feels a lot more dangerous. But yeah, I think this one. I think we're gonna follow the pattern. Paddy Pimblett debuted against Vendramini, used his striking, looked fantastic there. Next fight against Vargas, he was more of a striking threat. Paddy reminded everyone what a grappler he is. Went to the sub game. I think we're coming back the other way now. I think Jourdain Levitt's only way to win this fight is via submission. I don't think he's going to be tapping out Paddy Pimblett. We could see some really great grappling exchanges, but personally, I think Paddy's going to look to just keep this one standing and put the paws on Jourdain Levitt's face. I thought that before even hearing Paddy speak, then I heard him today saying that that's what he has every intention to do, that he's not even looking to grapple at all. And I think that's what it is. I think we see Paddy blitz him. Levitt's crafty, kind of oddly crafty. Maybe he gets him to the ground. Maybe he kind of drags it so that we get past round 1 and it ends up being round 2. But I think either way, one of the first 2 rounds, there's a blitz, couple big shots. Levitt goes down. UK crowd goes crazy. Paddy Pimblett, KO, victory. Or TKO, I guess I should say victory.
Sure.
I guess I got to pick around. I'll say it gets into round 2.
You think it does? I like it. Yeah, I'll go TKO round 2 as well. I love that pick, and I love this matchup. I think the O2 Arena is going to explode when Paddy Pimblett wins this fight and possibly teabags Jourdain Levitt in the octagon.
Yes, that's right.
She said that he was going to do. He was like, he's going to twerk on me? No. I'm going to teabag him.
Love it.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting.
I hope we see it.
A lot of energy that this guy brings into the cage, man. Paddy Pimblett. He may not be the new Conor McGregor, but he is a one of a kind. That is for sure.
Yes, he is.
Okay, let's go co-main event.
Is this a daytime card? I didn't even think about that.
It probably is because
Being
it's
in the UK,
London.
right? Let's get that answer. Yeah, sure is. Sure is.
What does it start at noon or something for us?
Exactly right. The prelims start at noon, and the main card is at 3. All right.
All right.
Not my favorite. Especially after I already had to deal with that last week and missed so many of them. But okay. Let's continue. Co-main.
Co-main. Jack the Joker Hermanson taking on Chris Curtis. Welcoming Chris Curtis, in a sense, to the upper echelon of middleweight. Let's break this down real quick. Get out of my face, Jordan Levitt. Get out of my face, Nikita Krylov. I'm closing some tabs. Okay, we're here. Man, I gotta say, I've always liked Hermanson, but I have really become a fan of Chris Curtis since he joined the UFC just 3 fights ago. He made a big splash by taking out a big prospect in Phil Hawes, knocking him out at the end of round 1 of their fight back in November. Then he comes back, he TKOs Brendan Allen, another prospect, and then he beats Rodolfo Vieira by unanimous decision just this past June, and now he's right back in there less than a month after. So winning a lot of fans, Chris Curtis is. Jack Hermanson, easily the toughest opponent of his entire career. Jack Hermanson, the Swede, 22-7 as a pro, 34 years old. He's coming off of a split decision loss, right, against Sean Strickland. So Hermanson kind of known as a submission guy, but also has 11 knockouts to his name. So, Mark, give us your assessment of Chris Curtis stepping up against Hermanson.
Yeah, Hermanson's got that ground and pound power, man. You do not want to be under Hermanson. He will finish you, whether it's with the sub or the ground and pound for sure. Oh, wait, here, let me give you the odds on this one as well. Oh, this one is a dead pick'em. Both guys minus 110.
No way.
Yep,
Wow.
pretty interesting. If you are someone who regularly watches this show, you know who I'm picking here because I am contractually bound to pick Chris Curtis. I have picked against this man in all 3 of his UFC fights. I took Phil Hawes, I took Brendan Allen, and then I took Rodolfo Vieira, and I said that if I was wrong again, it didn't matter if Chris Curtis fought Francis Ngannou in his next fight, I would pick him. I was wrong again. So here we are. I am picking Chris Curtis. It worked out for me that it's actually what I think is a winnable fight for him. Jack Hermanson's beatable. There's times where he looks really dominant in there. Like I said, if he gets on top of you, you're in trouble. But he's also a guy who kind of struggles to get things there sometimes. His takedown game is more of like a hold you close trip type takedown game. It's not anything that where he's blasting you or wrestling technique like a DC style. It's more that he needs that clinch first and kind of drags you down. And I think Chris Curtis is well equipped to deal with that. It's sort of similar to what Vieira was trying to do to him in his last fight, and he dealt with it really well. So I think he can absolutely win this fight. Now, if he does get taken down, like I said, he may be in some trouble, but I am bound to pick him here. So I will say that he can keep it on his feet, that he resists these. Hermanson is long, but I think Chris Curtis is just looking really smooth with the hands lately. And I think he can keep it standing and piece, say that he wins a 29-28 UD.
I think it's going to be a little bit of a war between these two guys. I'll go Hermanson. I'll say that Chris Curtis does hit a little bit of a speed bump at this point in his career. He is the newer to the UFC, but he is the older man in the cage on Saturday night. So I'm going to say that the Joker does get him to the ground, and he will get the best of him there. He's going to be heavy on top and long on top. I'll say that he gets a unanimous decision victory because I think Chris Curtis is a pretty fucking tough guy, and he's going to survive. But I'm going to say that Hermanson is going to cruise to a UD.
The Curtis story is wild, man. The guy's 35, and I think that this is his 38th fight, and he's just now hit like the biggest point of his career. It's pretty crazy.
And Hannah Goldie is in the UFC after like 2 fights. Yeah. Like, what's going on? Weird. All right, main event time. Here we go. In the heavyweight division, 2 guys who are absolute beasts in the heavyweight division. Let me pull this up real quick. We have Curtis Razor Blaydes taking on the one and only England's own Tom Aspinall. Let me start with Curtis Blaydes, the American from Illinois, 31-year-old, 16-3, stands at 6'4". Of his 16 wins, 11 by knockout or TKO. Most of his wins wind up on the ground. None of them have ended by submission. All TKO, all ground and pound, all day. Coming off of a tremendous TKO victory against Chris Daukaus back in March at UFC Fight Night. Blaydes versus Daukaus. Okay, Tom Aspinall, the hometown guy. Last time we saw him was right here at the O2 Arena when he defeated Alexander Volkov by submission via straight armbar, where he rocked him in the first round and finished it on the ground. Tom Aspinall is 12-2 as a pro. He's only 29 years old. That's pretty young for heavyweight. 6'5". Of his 12 victories, he has finished all 12 of his opponents with 9 knockouts, 3 submissions, no victories by decision. Tom Aspinall is a finisher. Okay, Mark, now you can talk.
As I Google Tom Aspinall's reach. All right, only 2 inches less than Curtis Blaydes. All right, so pretty close odds here. Aspinall's the favorite. He's minus 135. Curtis Blaydes is plus 110. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's that close. It's because Tom Aspinall, as good as he has looked, he has not fought anyone that remotely resembles the game and the challenge of a Curtis Blaydes. He has not even fought like an okay wrestler, really, necessarily. I guess, Volkov, okay wrestler, but I'm saying no one whose game is wrestling like this, and Blaydes is as good as it gets there. So it'll be interesting to see if Aspinall can get through this one and can show out against a guy who has a dominant skill set like Curtis Blaydes does. But, you know me, going with my boy. I'm going with the future heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall. We're getting there bit by bit here. I think it's a tough one for Blaydes. This is another one, like I just said about Hermanson. Would I be stunned if Curtis Blaydes was able to get on top and do work? No, because he's Curtis Blaydes. Like, I'm not ruling it out. But I think Curtis Blaydes either has to take Tom Aspinall down, which won't be super easy to do, and then when he's down there, has to worry about Tom Aspinall's jiu-jitsu. Or I think he has to be standing on the feet across from Tom Aspinall, where he is going to be at a distinct disadvantage. I know that he just got a beautiful KO of Chris Daukaus in his last fight. Curious to see how much he falls in love with the hands. I couldn't believe he struck with Daukaus. You would think he's going to come out against Aspinall and look for the takedown, because Aspinall's a bit more dangerous in the striking than Daukaus is. But you never know. You never know what Curtis Blaydes is going to do. He kind of has these weird game plans sometimes. But I just think all the danger's on the Tom Aspinall side. I think that he is so crafty. I think he lands shots from angles that you don't see coming. I think he has power on shots that you don't expect to have the power that they do. I think his footwork's going to be a problem for Blaydes. Blaydes is not always the best at initiating the takedown. He sometimes puts his head in places it shouldn't be. I think Aspinall could connect on knees, could connect on uppercuts. I just love the dude's game. I think that he's going to be hurting Blaydes on the feet. I could see it hit the mat. I could see Aspinall get up. I could even see Aspinall go for a takedown to mix things up. It wouldn't shock me. I just think that he is the overall better mixed martial artist. I believe in this man. I think that he is going to make it look fairly easy. Not as easy as he did against Volkov.
Wow.
I'm going to say this thing's over by round 2. Tom Aspinall, TKO, round 2.
I was going to pick Curtis Blaydes, but you make such a compelling case. Fuck it, I'm still picking Curtis Blaydes. I will say I have a somewhat different take than you. I mean, I do love watching Tom Aspinall. I'm going to say that he runs into Curtis Blaydes, and he's like, oh, shit. This is a game plan and a level of talent that I have not ever faced before.
It's entirely
And I'm going to say that
possible.
Curtis Blaydes... Yeah, I'm going to say that Curtis Blaydes does get Tom Aspinall to the ground. And I'm going to say that Tom Aspinall is going to be like, I have jiu-jitsu. And Curtis Blaydes is going to laugh and pound his face.
It's also very possible.
into the canvas. And I'm going to go Curtis Blaydes handing Tom Aspinall only his 3rd loss of his career. I'm going to say he's going to do it by TKO. And I'll say round 2 as well.
Isn't it weird that Tom Aspinall has losses? Like, he's one of those guys that absolutely feels like he's undefeated. Like, and then you remember he's not, and it's like, wait, who beat him? I'm like, yeah.
I mean, I know he's undefeated in the UFC, and I'm sure that's part of it. But yeah, he has this aura of a sort of an undefeated
of a guy who hasn't been topped. Yes, I agree. But yeah, it's very possible. We always see this in MMA. We see these guys who look like, it's like, man, who's going to beat them? And then they run into a certain style, and it's like, oh, well, that's how you beat them. So this could be it. It could be that he can't stop Blaydes' takedowns, and it could be that Blaydes is so heavy on top and has such good ground and pound that his jiu-jitsu doesn't work from down there. Could absolutely be it, and that's what I meant earlier when I said that's why the odds are close.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be more firmly on the Tom Aspinall train, so I believe he's getting it done.
All right, man. Well, that's it for our preview of UFC London for this Saturday night, as well as all of the fights coming up, all of the events coming up this weekend, Bellator, as well as One Championship. Now let's end with a little bit of trivia.
Do it.
I have prepared a little trivia question from my man Mark. Here we go. And if you're watching at home, go ahead and comment below with what you thought was the answer. So once I read it, I want you to comment with your pick and let us know if you were right or wrong. Well, we'll know that you're right or wrong, but you know what I mean. Okay. Mark, who has the most knockdowns in the history
This is a good question.
of the heavyweight division in the UFC? Since we're going heavyweights this weekend at UFC London, let's answer this question. Both guys in the main event this weekend have some knockdown power. Who has the most knockdowns in the history of the UFC heavyweight
Is
division?
this a multiple choice, or is it...
Oh, yes. So sorry. Let me read my multiple choice. Is it A, Junior Dos
Yeah,
Santos?
he's in my head.
B, Overeem? C, Mark
I knew
Hunt?
he'd be on this list. Yeah.
Or D, Stipe Miocic?
All right, I wasn't thinking about Stipe. All the other three were in my mind. Stipe hadn't crossed my mind. Oh, man. Man. See, Overeem's got a lot, but then I'm like, well, how many of those ones I'm thinking of were like in Strike Force or even in earlier days in Pride or whatever? Hunt, same deal. Like, how many of his were pre-UFC? Junior was like straight UFC. I wish I could look how many fights they each had in the UFC. Most knockdowns in heavyweight history. It could be Stipe, but I feel like I'm just not ready to fucking say that. I'll tell you who has the most walk-off KOs in UFC history. My boy Mark Hunt. I missed that, man. Let's say Junior.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
The answer is A, Junior Dos Santos. with 14 knockdowns.
Oh, about time I got a trivia. I've been cold lately.
Good guess. Good guess. Yeah, man. Junior has always had fucking thunder in his hands, man.
Yep.
Dude, early JDS was scary at heavyweight.
100%.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Just lit dudes up. Lit him
He
up.
felt like a guy who was going to be champ for a while.
This is true. Until he ran into Cain Velasquez.
Yep.
All right, man.
Wait,
Hey, we did it. Two-man
what
show.
was the order there? Do you have the list of their numbers? I'm curious.
No,
all right.
I do not.
But yeah, we did the two-man show. We still managed to talk for 2 hours.
Somehow. There was a lot of MMA to talk about.
There was.
But there will be more to talk about next week when we break down all of the content from this coming weekend, both Bellator as well as One Championship, in addition to the UFC Fight Night. So, folks, enjoy the fights this weekend, and we'll hit you up next week. Any parting shots, Mark?
That's it. We look forward to getting Omar back next week. Enjoy the fights, people.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Peace.
Peace.